This is a V5 chassis. It's similar to the Super Spine. The Super Spine runs a short rod, which would be this guy here, versus the V5, which runs the long rod in comparison. Now, what that means to you is when you go to install your hanger, you're going to want to take and place the hanger in a position so that the rod length can reach it properly. So what we're looking at here is a V5. This is the belly pan, so it's flipped upside down, and this is the front end of it. We'll start by taking and just screwing in the hanger here. So to measure up your setback on the hanger, just take the radius rod, kind of place it up against, and look at the angle of where it's at and where it's going to be in proportion to the hanger. So if you need it in a little further, you can judge that. You kind of want the bolt as it comes out here to be at a 90. So we'll go ahead and set this real quick, and I just use my eyeball to look at that. If this was the rear, we would be looking at it from a straight on position, and from the front we would put it at the furthest away roadside hole. So to tighten these, what we like to do is take the hanger and the carrier rod end here on the hanger and just align it up so that it is sitting square with the chassis, as if the bushings were on it and everything was being held in place. So you get a line of sight down it this way, this direction, square it up, and then snug your jam nut without allowing your heim to rotate, and then take your hanger, put a little counter steer on it, and if you don't have a vise to put your deal in, it's good to have somebody hold your board for you while you do this. So a little bit of counter rotation here, a little bit of down action on here, and that's snug and tight. So the next thing you want to do here is go ahead and put your bushings on. Bushings are made with a 2-angle cup and a flat edge to take and mimic this surface here. So you want the cupped ends in. There's two different types of adjusting nuts that we use. We use a machined and a flat. And the machined surface we originally designed for the old steel type, which had a real small contact area here. This new style heim we went to with the carbon insert on it, it has a big flat area all the way across, and it has more bushing control than this one does. So what we found is that with this new style, when we run the cupped, the ramping rate on the bushing is more controlled, and so you have an increased ramping rate as you increase tilt. And with the flat style, it has more of a linear feel to it. It doesn't ramp on the bushing and get harder as you turn. So what that allows you to do is to run a little bit more compression rates on your bushings without having the ramping rate increase so high as you would with the cupped one. So. So when we get these adjuster nuts here for the bushings close, I like to take and drop a little blue Loctite right on the threads. Just one little drop does it good for each side. Doesn't take much. Be a little conservative on the Loctite there. and just run those up so they're hand tight. You want to be able to take and be able to roll the hanger by hand so that you can get your pinning bolts right on the radius rod mounts. So radius rod mounts are next. We've got two kinds. We've got the old steel, and with the steel, the way the radius rod mounts up is you would screw it on. Radius rod drops flat. You'd take a rod mount bolt and drop it in here. This would get tightened down first with a split washer there on the end of it, and then after this was all tightened and in the channel, then you would take and tighten the clamp collar second. And what the clamp collar does is it takes the pinning bolt and crushes it into the machine surface. So installing the rest of this, we'll get these billet mounts put on the hanger here. So the way I like to set this up is by starting with one side. You take your radius rod and just hold it up to and try and follow the angles of what the mount has on it and your frame. And start with that. So this is the pinning bolt here. It drops in first. And the pinning bolt, you want to go ahead and line it up with the machine channel and tighten that down all the way. Next, you want to drop in the clamping bolt. The clamping bolt will drop in and it'll tighten the slot up here. And what that does is when you screw it down, it's going to take that pinning bolt and it just pushes that pinning bolt into the channel even harder. So for the second side, you want to match it up, and I use a micrometer, and I'll come over to the side that I just set, and I use this bearing boss right here at the end. So I'll go from bearing boss to the inside edge. And measure those up. And drop the pinning bolt in. Tighten that up on the machine groove there. Drop your clamping bolts in second. Tighten that up as well. So next, this is the front end here. So what we're going to do is our radius rods are going to go in at an angle. This is the front angle. If this was the rear of the board, we would put them in at this angle here with the flags on top. So I like to take the right hand thread and put it on the hanger rod mount end of it. And every time I go to adjust these, then I know that this is the right side and this is the left side. So no matter what board of mine I go to, it's set up the same direction. It's not a thing that's gonna make or break it, but it's just a kind of a rule that I follow when I put these things together for both myself and customers. So don't tighten these up all the way, just snug them down. Get your rods orientated. So on the top, it gets a bolt, it gets a spring washer or a split washer, and on the V5 We run an 1/8 inch plate here, so it gets this 1/16 inch washer behind it. On the super spine, we run a 3/32 plate, and this little washer would not be put on the super spine. But the crush washer would, or the split washer. So the last thing you're going to want to do after you get your axle in, you get your stuff all hooked up and tight, you've been over it, you're going to want to loosen these jam nuts up, throw a set of wheels on the front. What I do is I go grab I use a T-square. The T-square that I have has this nice little notch on it. You can also use the T-square up against your wheels like this. But I like to drop mine on top, and I line this end up with the carrier heim that's here in the front. And I'll take and I'll just roll my thumbs on top of each part of this, and I'll roll it back, and it lets me know whether the hanger is not square or true with the center line of the deck of the board. So I'll roll this back. This needs a slight adjustment to the left. So we'll grab the 11 millimeter, and we will adjust in on this side a little bit and a little bit out on this side. Come back, check it again. It is money right down the middle. So for tightening up the radius rod jam nuts, what I like to do is I take and turn them all in the same direction I'm going to tighten, and then I go over them one at a time. And you don't have to go crazy tight, just snug on each one of these, and that'll allow you, when everything's tight, to have the most motion on your radius rod, which you don't want these binding up in any way when you're steering.